Hi cuties, my name is Hanako Kozumi and this is the channel Nerdy Nekoma. Everything here is about Haikyuu chat stories and fanfic. Thanks for joining us today. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. And with that, welcome to today's video. It's called I Against Me and is about KuroKen. It's a heart comfort one-shot with a lot of fluff at the end, I promise. Before we start, a few things. The video was named after the song I'll be using in the middle of the video from Anna Blue. I really love it, you should check it out. I'll leave the link in the description. But I didn't put lyrics prank or something alike in the title because it's really just a very small portion of the overall very long video, at least if you compare it to the other videos on my channel. It's also one of the best things I have written so far, at least in my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments, and now let's go. I hope you enjoy. Kenma. The fog's blunt tapped away on his device furiously. But regardless of all his efforts, the sound of defeat soon echoed through the room, again. He bit his teeth together in frustration. When their eyes met, his were filled with cold anger and burning rage. What? His skin felt itchy and as if every touch set it on flames. As if he was wearing a too tight shirt that was choking him. He was irritated and every sensation tipped him further over the edge. He desperately searched for an escape, but the switch in his hand failed to distract him. Instead, Kuro proved to be quite efficient at keeping him from his rescue. The taller flinched at his harsh response, but tried to play it off by shifting his weight. His jaw clenched as he observed his supposedly best friend closely. What do you want? He wanted to wait for Kenma to calm down. He usually backtracked after his frustration subsided, but the whiskey eyes continued staring at him angrily. Kuro felt his own frustration tugging at his heart, harsh words on the tip of his tongue threatening to claw their way out of his throat. He bit down hard until the taste of iron and copper filled his mouth. His lungs filled with a deep breath, cold air that was meant to calm him but just ended up cutting into his flesh. What? Can't you just leave me alone? His breath hitched. It felt as if an ice-cold hand was closing around his heart and chest, clenching it impossibly tight. Okay. His anger had disappeared, vanished into thin air as he looked into Kenma's eyes and was met with nothing but sincerity. He meant it. Kuro was nothing but a nuisance to him. He had always known that Kenma didn't like to spend time with people, but foolish as he was, assumed that he was an exception. They had argued a couple of times before. This was a reoccurring issue between them, but Kenma never meant it. It was what made him usually so mad. Kenma said these things in the heat of the moment to hurt him and drive him away, even though neither of them wanted that. But this time, he truly meant it. Kuro, annoyed, burdened him. He never wanted that. I'm sorry. He turned around and left. As soon as he stepped out of the door, the first tear fell. If he knew earlier how little time was left for them, how fast Kenma would end up getting fed up with him, he would have never argued. He would have enjoyed every last second. Kenma tried to refocus on his game, but no matter what he tried, it only irritated him further. He was close to tears. Every failed attempt to immerse himself into another world and escape this one drove him further into sensory overload. He panicked. He felt lost. Kuro. His eyes searched the room for his guiding light, his guardian angel, but no one answered his calls. Slowly he got up and crawled into bed, hiding under the blanket and blocking out every sound and light around him. It took minutes until he could breathe normally again. He still felt trapped and uncomfortable in his own skin. But slowly but surely, it got more bearable again. As time passed, he fell into a deep sleep, the exhaustion overtaking his body. When he woke up, he still felt exhausted, but at least the light didn't feel like needles being poked into his skin anymore, and the air lost its blades. He groaned and pushed the hair out of his face. Kenma rolled over on his back and stared at the ceiling, hand hovering over his forehead as he blinked against the light. His eyes were decorated with dark shadows underneath them, creating a stark contrast to the light skin. Where his brain was still in the process of rebooting, he blindly reached for his phone on the nightstand, realizing with horror that it was out of his reach. The blonde started stretching awkwardly to get it without getting up, which earned him a bruise on his chin and elbow as his torso tipped over and he collided with the ground. At least his phone landed beside him. He frowned, both at the time, 2 p.m., and the fact that he hadn't gotten a message from Kuro yet. He grumbled quiet curses under his breath while typing a quick message. Hi. It took 3 minutes before Kuro came online, and 3 more until the 3 dots started dancing on his display, indicating that he started typing. They appeared and disappeared and reappeared for a while, making Kenma frown and his anxiety accumulating in his stomach. What in hell was going on? Why are you texting me? No good morning, no just get up kitten, you need to fix your sleep schedule. No kitten at all. Kenma gulped. And what was that stupid question? You made it pretty clear yesterday that you didn't want me around. I didn't. You told me to leave you alone. Yes, in that moment, not longer, not forever. He didn't even remember clearly what he said or what had happened. He was just so tired and irritated. Kuro knew that he doesn't mean it like that, right? He knew that they were still alright, right? That he loved him, right? But what if they weren't? Did he hurt him? He didn't want to. He didn't mean to. He couldn't do this without him. Kuro, I didn't mean it. That didn't sound like it. Kuro stared at the messages. His own reflection stared back at him whenever it got dark, and he waited for Kenma to reply. He didn't even know why he was still doing this, or why he allowed Kenma to still call him by his nickname. It hurt so much, but he didn't have the heart to tell him to stop. It wasn't Kenma's fault after all that he grew to want more from their relationship, that he wished to be more than friends. Did he notice? Either way, it was probably good to end it now, before it could get even worse, not that he deemed it possible. This way, they maybe at some point could become something like friends again, and Kenma wouldn't avoid him. He could still see him in practice, without feeling guilty because he used Kenma's obliviousness to stay closer to him than he should. This way, Kenma wouldn't be uncomfortable. Shoyo. Kenma, hi. How are you? The blonde didn't have the time to appreciate his best friend's enthusiasm. Not good. I fucked up. At least, he thought so. It was hard to tell. He needed to do something, but what? How in hell could he tell Kuro what he felt, that he honestly wanted him close? What happened? How did you tell Kageyama that you liked him? What? I didn't. I don't like that stupidly handsome and stubborn king. Really? He had been so sure. Well, I need to tell Kuro. Can you help me? You like Kuro? Obviously. But like Kuro? His frown increased. What in hell was that supposed to mean? Doesn't matter. How do I tell him that he's not a nuisance? Just like that, I assume. He doesn't believe me. I can't even put the simplest thoughts into words. How should I do this? Maybe you don't need to. Maybe someone else already did. Look, there are 1,000 songs about stuff like this. If one of them describes what you are feeling, you can tell Kuro to listen to it. You are not alone in this. I'm sure many people feel the same. So, just find one and send him? Yeah, though it might be a bit more personal if you send him the lyrics. Like a lyrics prank. Like the one I and the other setters did the other day. Yeah, that was awesome. Just that this time it isn't a prank. He was hesitant. It was questionable at best in his opinion, embarrassing at worst. But Hinata's argument did sound logical and his options were limited. I'll give it a try. Kuro? It took a few more minutes before he answered. Kenma sighed. He knew how hard this was, but everything was worth it if Kuro ended up understanding what he needed him to understand. Will you listen if I tell you something? Another moment of silence. Kenma awaited his response anxiously while repeating the lyrics over and over in his head. He didn't need to Google them. He knew them, could recite them in his sleep. Okay. A little weight seemed to have been lifted from his heart. He was willing to listen. Tell me why you're holding me back. Kuro's vision blurred. He had expected everything, but not this. Why was he...
Trying to push me off the right track.
His hands started to tremble. How could... Did he really think that?
And I'm wishing so bad you would leave me alone.
He almost dropped it. Fuck. He had already understood it. All of it. Why was Kenma pouring acid on his wounds? He usually didn't even text first. Why would he now? Just to cause him more pain? What did he do that was this awful? When did Kenma turn cruel?
Why you blurring out my vision?
He could barely see the text through the tears, but laughed bitterly at the irony when he did.
So I could make the wrong decision.
What wrong decision? To be friends with him? The bitterness filled his heart, and hateful words assembled at the back of his throat, only stopped by his lips pressed together tightly as the betrayal settled in his stomach.
But I know that you'll never be gone.
Was I really that clingy? Didn't I always respect your boundaries? He wanted to scream. He knew that he needed to stop this, that he ought to reply or at least tell him to shut up, but he couldn't bring himself to move.
I'm blaming you that I've been cruel and mean to all my friends.
Blaming him? Why? Wasn't he the closest friend to Kenma? Hadn't he been the cruelest to him? If this wasn't his worst, he didn't want to know what else there was. This wasn't the Kenma he knew. The Kenma he fell in love with.
'Cause I've become so rude and now another friendship ends.
At least he is aware. Another bitter laugh escaped his throat. A friendship ends, huh? So, it's over? After all these years, you throw me away just like that?
But now I started seeing clearer.
Really? What made you realize it? Where did I go wrong?
I saw your face up in the mirror. Yes, I'm the one to blame.
He froze. It took his brain a minute to catch up. It was Kenma? Kenma blamed himself?
That's why I bang my head against the wall.
He wasn't talking about him?
'Cause I don't like myself at all.
What? Realization flashed in his eyes as the fist around his heart loosened. He hesitantly wiped the tears away and stared at the display intensely, not ready to risk it just yet. He couldn't get his hopes up, only to be shut down again. He wouldn't.
Wish that I could cut all the ties. And now my life is such a tragedy.
Kenma. It was just a whisper, lost in an empty room and heard by the person the name belonged to.
Because I'm my biggest enemy.
No, please don't think like that. A new worry loomed in his chest.
I can't look myself in the eyes. It's I against me.
This wasn't about him at all. Kuroo sat up abruptly, finally typing an answer. Kenma, are you okay?
I'm hurting everyone around me, and I'm regretting it profoundly.
If you regret it, we can fix it. He wanted to fix this. This wasn't enough. He stumbled on his way to his drawer, searching for a clean set of clothes.
But I finally see that the reason is you.
He cursed under his breath when he fell while putting on his pants.
Another day, another struggle.
He reached for his phone that had fallen underneath the bed. Fuck. A sharp pain tore through his nerves upon being met with the wooden bed frame when he got back up.
Because I'm always causing trouble.
1 second. I'll be there in a minute. No, stay. His heart sank again, and he stopped mid-step, coming to a sudden halt.
It's I against me against I.
It doesn't have to be. Please, let me come over.
A torturous battle. A one-sided fight.
Another kind of dread spread within him as he read the messages. How did he fail to notice that Kenma felt this way?
I'm willing to lose if it means that I win in the end. Now the war is on.
They were best friends and spent almost every day together, and yet he still failed to see Kenma's struggles. Maybe he should send him away.
As we both collide, I just hope I will survive.
Of course, I will help you, no matter what. He was about to call him, to insist that he could visit him to resolve this, when the door to his room suddenly opened. In front of him stood Kenma, cheeks tainted with a light pink, lips slightly agape, and shadows beneath his eyes. He worried his bottom lip nervously between his teeth and lifted his phone slightly, showing Kuroo their chat as if it would explain everything. The tall middle blocker was frozen in place, still processing all the new information and quite frankly confusing stuff that had happened. So, your mom let me in. His eyes wandered through the room, looking at everything but Kuroo. The older, however, noticed the swift glances thrown in his direction. Kenma. He walked towards him, first slow, then faster until he held the smaller tightly in his arms. I'm sorry. The blonde shook his head. I don't want an apology, or that you feel guilty. Just to explain. His words were muffled by Kuroo's shirt, but he made no attempt to get away to talk properly, and Kuroo didn't either. They hadn't resolved this just yet, but after he thought that Kenma got fed up with him, that he might never be able to hold him like this again, he didn't care if they ought to talk first. Just knowing that Kenma wasn't uncomfortable in his presence, in his arms, and when he touched him, was enough to throw all caution in the wind. So, you really feel like that? He gulped while Kenma nodded. I had every right to be mad. I guess I treated you really poorly for you to leave me. He forced the words out, and Kuro could hear that it took him increasingly more effort. I didn't even notice. I hate this. His hands clenched around the fabric of Kuro's shirt. What? Not knowing when I hurt you. Fresh tears gathered in his eyes. Hey, it's okay. No, it's not. You deserve someone who can look out for you as well. Someone who treats you better. Sobs shook his body. But you don't mean it. That's no excuse. He shouted the words against Kuro's chest, his grip tightening. The taller looked at him surprised. He had never seen Kenma losing his composure like this, had never seen him this vulnerable. The silence lingered in the room, only torn by Kenma's sobs and sniffles and the ruffling of fabric as Kuro stroked his back soothingly. Isn't it completely natural not to know what someone else feels? Sure, some are better at it than others, recognizing someone's emotions, but it's always guessing to a certain extent. And if you are not as good at it, you can always ask. Kenma let out a quiet huff, leaning his full weight against Kuro because he was exhausted and didn't trust his legs enough. I'm not good at that either. That's true. With most people, you are not. Weird, but I always saw myself as an exception to that. He smiled sadly, while lifting the other from the ground and walking them over to the bed. Kenma gladly accepted the spot on his lap and hid his face against Kuro's neck. You are an exception. It was barely more than a whisper, but Kuro heard it regardless, the same breath tickling the soft skin of his neck right below his ear. He was just about to respond when... That's what makes it so hard. Surprised, he paused. What do you mean? Kenma pulled him even closer, but hesitantly started talking again. I don't care if I mess things up with others. I'm used to it, but I can't mess things up with you. I don't want to. A pleasant warmth spread on Kuro's chest, even though he wished Kenma wasn't used to the rejection of others, that more people could see him for the amazing person he was and respect him as such. Like Karasuno's first year. You won't. I will be with you no matter what. I promise. You shouldn't. It surprised him yet again when he heard how angry Kenma sounded. If I hurt you, you shouldn't stay with me. You always tell me to care for myself, so do the same. I don't want to hurt you, but if I do, you can't just accept that. A fond smile spread on his face. You care. Of course. He pushed him away a bit, and their eyes met. I always cared. Me too. Don't worry. In the future, I will tell you if you accidentally hurt me. Promise. I promise. He glanced at his lips with a blink of an eye. He desperately needed someone to slap some sense into him so that he wouldn't destroy what they had just salvaged. Kenma? He looked at Kuro tiredly. Will you promise me something in return? He gulped. The blonde nodded slowly. Please tell me when you are feeling like that. I don't want you to think bad about yourself or for the way you feel. We can work on our communication, but I never want you to be ashamed of your feelings. They are valid, even if it feels like you want to send my annoying ass to hell. He chuckled slightly, but Kenma kept quiet. However, a small smile appeared on his lips, and he nodded again. I promise. Good. Warm lips met his. They were soft and incredibly gentle. It felt like electricity flooded his body from where they were connected, and it set his nerves ablaze. All sounds and sensations were drowned out by this one simple touch. He couldn't breathe. His eyes widened while Kenma's closed. Slender fingers pulled him closer by his shirt. His world seemed to be bathed in light and warmth. Nothing could compare to this feeling, to the intense amount of joy overtaking his whole system. It was as if he had only ever lived in a dull world that was suddenly filled with colors, vivid gold and amber mixed with milky white and a hint of cinnamon. It was as if he could taste the warmth on Kenma's lips, as if light had gotten a scent. He strived to remember every bit of this, every sensation, to experience it with all his senses, and never let go of this overwhelming feeling closest to paradise. It only lasted for a couple of seconds, yet it turned his world upside down. The moment Kenma pulled away, movement returned to him, and his hands automatically reached for his cheeks to pull him back in. Kissing Kenma felt like second nature to him, and yet new and exhilarating, as if all his prayers were answered. He never felt like this before, but he had never felt more content and at ease, even with his heart beating wildly in his chest. A slight gasp escaped Kenma's lips when he pulled him closer again, leaving them slightly agape. The smaller surprised him yet again when he licked over his lips, tracing the shape of his bottom lip. The electricity in that area intensified, leaving him burning in the most delicate way. He burned under Kenma's touch, the feeling so intense that it felt like it could destroy him. Yet all it did was leave him glowing with pride and joy, setting him ablaze with flames of passion and affection. His eyes were overflowing with this fire as they separated. He couldn't speak, even though there was so much to be said, but it was impossible to put into words how he felt right now. He had never dared to dream of a moment like this, yet Kenma stole a kiss from him as if asking for the weather, completely natural. As if this wasn't a big deal, as if he hadn't just... Kuro? While the taller was speechless and seemingly malfunctioning upon being kissed by his crush, feelings he thought he was never allowed to pursue, Kenma seemed almost unaffected. Just a slight hint of pink dusted his cheeks. He stared at Kuro incredulously and confused, trying to figure out what had set him off. His cheeks were unnaturally red and his lips parted, moving as if he tried to say something but couldn't bring himself to. Worried, he reached a hand out for him, brushing a few of the loose strands of black hair from his face. Big mistake. Kuro looked like his brain was shutting down. You kissed me. He nodded. You kissed me too. So what? You kissed me first. Yes. He answered slowly, as if he was worried that Kuro was freaking out for a still unknown reason. The middle blocker looked at him incredulously. Why? Kenma raised his eyebrows. Why? Yes. Why did you... His thoughts trailed off. Did he do that because he liked him? As a friend or romantically? Not even Kenma would be this oblivious to do this as friends, right? He was freaking out internally. He would never call Kenma stupid, but he also didn't dare to get his hopes up. Because I felt like it. That didn't help at all. I like you, and you like me too, so what is the problem? He said it so matter-of-factly, it was unbelievable. How could he say this so easily when Kuro was dying of a heart attack just thinking about the possibility? He hadn't even managed to be honest with himself. As friends? The setter's brows furrowed. In his gaze lay an unspoken question, though it couldn't have been clearer. Are you stupid? Yes, and more. Again, he spoke slowly, as if explaining something very simple to an idiot, which is exactly how Kuro felt right now. It was all gone though when he heard his answer, unable to keep his hopes from flourishing. More? Kenma kept quiet until realization dawned on his face, along with horror. You didn't know. He whispered the words, his hand twitching and rushing to cover his mouth as he let go of his shirt suddenly. His eyes widened, and Kuro could finally see the reaction on his face he had been waiting for this whole time. A furious blush bloomed into existence, dyeing his cheeks, ears, and neck in a beautiful red. The embarrassment was clear as daylight in his eyes. You didn't know? Yes. He gulped. Suddenly, a punch at his upper arm. Kuro yelped at the surprise attack. Hey! You idiot! Kenma looked down, too embarrassed to face him. You big dumb idiot! Fool! Kenma, that's mean. He whined. You deserve it, idiot! Another light punch at his chest. You are such an idiot, Kuro. He looked at the blonde baffled before bursting out in laughter. He let himself fall back onto the bed while Kenma remained in his original position, pouting and trying to hide behind his hair. Say, is idiot the standard for sitters, or have you just spent too much time with Hinata and Kageyama? I hate you. He glared at him from between the long strands of hair. No, you don't. Apparently, you love me. He grinned proudly and teasingly nudged the other in his side. I never said love. I said I like you. He huffed. Oh, so you don't love me? He feigned hurt, but his teasing smirk gave it away. You're getting used to this pretty quickly. He crossed his arms over his chest, which didn't last long when Kuro took it upon himself to pull the other closer again despite the yelp of protest. He nuzzled his nose against the golden hair and dark roots, utterly content in their position. Of course, this was all I ever wanted since I was in my second year of middle school. I only realized it till high school though. I was a bit in denial, and only your absence made me truly understand why. Why hesitate? I lost so much time already by, what did you say, being a big dumb idiot? Kenma's blush got even darker and he hit his face against Kuro's chest again. I won't do that mistake twice. A deep chuckle resonated in his chest and sent shivers through Kenma's body. Idiot. He laughed. I know. Let me make it up to you. How? This sounded suspicious. I don't know, but we have a lifetime to figure it out. He grinned proudly. So, we're official then? Hey, what happened to all that confidence, kitten? He threw a death glare in Kuro's direction. Do you want us to be? Official, I mean. Boyfriends, for all the world to see. Kenma didn't answer, at least not verbally. He couldn't, it was too embarrassing. However, the slight nod against his chest was enough of an answer to him, and he pulled the setter closer, engulfing him in a hug. Alright, boyfriends then. He looked at Kenma, or rather, the bit of hair not hidden by the blanket he started to pull over his head, fondly. I love you. Love you too. It was barely audible, yet it still had the power to make his heart skip a beat. Or stop. Honestly, if someone would tell him that he had died and gone to heaven, he'd believe it. Kenma, without a doubt, would be the death of him. Thank you for watching to the end. You made it through the longest video on my channel so far. Let's see if I'll top a record at some point, though the editing took forever, so I will maybe stick with my 20 minutes for now. However, yeah, I really liked it. I hope you liked it too. I just have this headcanon of Kenma actually realizing that Kuro is in love with him way before that, but thinking that Kuro just like equally as much realized how much Kenma is in love with him, and yeah, I put this into this video. I liked it. I hope you liked it. Consider leaving a like because it really helps my channel grow, and consider subscribing if you don't want to miss out on anything in the future. I'm running out of time. Have a wonderful day.